Oliver Holt, folks, do you know him? Well, I can't say I know him. He's a journalist. Writes for the Mail, I think. Used to be the Mail on Sunday. Now does bits various days of the week. Used to be their number one journalist, and he's high up the pecking order now. I don't think he's the chief sports writer now. Don't think he's done anything wrong. For my money, he's the best out there. I think he's absolutely sensational. I think he's a great journalist. I don't read absolutely everything he does, but anything that interests me, I read it from start to finish. I think he's brilliant. He did a piece about 2-3 years ago now. I can't even remember what it was, and I thought it was amazing. And at the bottom of his pieces, there's an email thing there. I think it's only to send in stories and such. I don't necessarily think the journalists read them. I think probably the people in the background that work for the newspapers do. But in this instance, I sent in a message, and don't think I've ever done it before, saying how wonderful I thought the article was, and how I thought he was a sensational journalist, because I actually likened him to Alistair Down, the old racing journalist who sadly is no longer with us. Alistair's my probably favourite journalist of all time, I would imagine. I think Oliver Holt's in that kind of rarefied atmosphere. He's that good. Anyway, he actually sent me a message back. It was really, really nice. Really nice. But I read a piece he did. I think it may have been at the weekend, but I think it was the week previous. I'm sure it was the week previous. I've just not had a chance to bring it on here because I was going to give my take on it. He did a piece about Mason Greenwood, ex-Manchester United player, now playing for Marseille. Now, you'll know it's about Mason because you'll see it in your thumbnail there. And you'll know how I feel about Greenwood. I mean, if everyone of the dogs turned their back on him, and maybe it's deserving, maybe it is what we heard, the things we heard, it's hard to unhear. They were bad. But I've been in the camp, probably I'm a man alone if you like, of he should have been given another chance. And that comes on the back of a piece that I've actually read on here, I think, about a year, 18 months ago. I didn't read it as well as it'd been written, but I read a piece from, I think it was from the Daily Mail, by a fellow journalist of Oliver's, which I thought was amazing. And it told us a lot about Mason Greenwood that we didn't know, or that I certainly didn't know. And it was enough to give me to make me think, well, I think he should be given another chance. It never happened. It's never going to happen. I read something about Greenwood about 2 or 3 weeks ago saying he's still anxious to play for England. He's desperate to play for England again. He's 24 now. We heard about a year, 18 months ago, Steve McLaren, when he got the job coaching Jamaica, managing Jamaica, whatever it may be, has approached Greenwood and wanted him to play for Jamaica. And we heard at the time that Greenwood was going to do it. Because I think he's got Jamaican heritage, his parents, there's some Jamaican there. Anyway, at the last moment, he decided not to. And it turns out the reason he's not doing it is he still hopes and prays he's going to play for England. Now, everybody, all sources, have said it's not going to happen. Tuchel, when asked in the past about Greenwood, said he's not on our radar at all. And we know we've got a wealth of talent at the squad at the moment, a real wealth of talent. But I read things and I thought, I'd love to see him one day play for England, like I'd love to see him one day play for United again. The United thing definitely won't happen. Well, I would imagine it, I'm definite on that one. The England thing maybe just could, although it almost certainly won't. But I read this, and then about a week after I read this story about Greenwood wanting to play for England, Oliver Holt covered it in the Mail. And I thought, I can't wait to see that. Now, I noticed it, I think. I look at the Daily Mail online on an almost daily basis to go for stories there, be it about showbiz, about what's happening in the world. And Oliver Holt was doing a story on it, but it was a members-only thing. Now, I only buy the Mail on a Saturday and Sunday. I don't buy it in the week. And I thought, I'm not going to be able to read that. And I'd love to read that. I'd love to hear Oliver's take. Anyway, it turns out they ran the story out on the Saturday or Sunday, so I could read it. And I read it, and I thought it was a great story, as per usual. But I was disappointed. I'm actually going, after putting this video out there, going to drop a line. If there's another email for Oliver Holt this weekend, I'm going to drop a line to say there's a video done on here on Grumpy's channel. He might never see it. He might never see the email. But I'm going to tell you, Oliver, if you do, why I was disappointed. He did the piece on Greenwood, and I liked it, thought it was great. But what he didn't do, he didn't say at the back end of the piece whether or not he felt Greenwood should play for England again. Now, I'm pretty certain, for all I don't know Oliver personally, I don't know his feelings on most anything, really, other than things I read, but I would guess he'd be one of the many that thinks Greenwood should be banished to probably where he is and never play for the country again. But I would ask, did he ever read his colleague's 2-page piece that was in the Mail probably about 2 years ago now? I would have thought he would have done, because he's thorough in what he does, is Oliver. He's the bee's knees in my eyes. But had he read that, I would have thought, like me, he might have just thought to himself, maybe this boy deserves a chance. You know, I'm not going to go through all the reasons again on here, folks, but I put them reasons out there before. But you see, when I look at Greenwood, I'll tell you the reason I want him to play for United again. I look at Greenwood. I'm going to do a piece on Manchester United in a moment. It won't get watched by many, but I'm going to do it anyway, because I do stuff on all things that I have an interest in, and any thoughts I have, I bring over here to yourselves. I'm going to do a short piece on the players that I believe are the positions United need to bring in players for or to strengthen. And I think one of them is up front. I think they're crying out for another striker. Maybe as a backup for Šeško. Maybe if within the next 6 months Šeško doesn't become the player we're hoping he's going to be, maybe as Šeško's replacement. Now I know that becomes even dearer than a backup, but I look at it because Šeško's now injured, and I don't see we've got any backup whatsoever. Apart from the young boy from Arsenal who hasn't got anywhere near the first team this year, there's nobody there. They're going to be playing players that aren't natural strikers, and I don't get that. I look at Mason Greenwood, and if you say to me, could Mason Greenwood play in Šeško's position and deputise for him, I'd say, well, firstly, he could definitely play there and deputise for him. And secondly, if Mason Greenwood was at our club, for me, Šeško wouldn't get in the team, it'd be Greenwood. Greenwood would be spearheading the attack. Because for all he normally plays wide, is it wide right, I think it is, I think he's a sensational player. I think he's better than Šeško. I think he's cleverer. I think his attributes are much, much better in virtually all areas, maybe apart from heading. Everything else, I think he batters him on. I think he's the most natural finish we've had for years and years and years. And then I go over and think of England. And if somebody says to me now, what one position in England have we got issues with? Are we weakening? Are we lighting? For me, it's centre forward. There's no doubt about it. He might have the boys back up from Villa there, but he doesn't play him enough. He doesn't like him enough. And his goal ratio isn't bad, but it's not world class. It's not brilliant. You look at Greenwood playing wide right. Yes, they're a good team. They're near top of league now in France, but wide right, look at goals to games. It's fantastic. How many goals to games would he get playing through the centre of an attack for a good team that creates loads of chances? Greenwood could score from anywhere. The tap-ins, inside the box, outside the box, left foot, right foot, penalties as well, just like Harry Kane. He can do it all. He can absolutely do it all. 2 or 3 years ago, when he was coming through Greenwood, I said to my young lad, I said, I'll tell you now, the best 2 finishers in English football at the moment are Harry Kane and Mason Greenwood. He hadn't got that amount of goals by that time, but I said, he's brilliant. He's got ice running through his veins. He's absolutely fantastic. He scores goals where other people don't think there's a goal on or a shot on. He can do it with both feet. He can feign. He can hit with power. He can place. He can do absolutely everything. I'd love him to play for England. I really, really would. I don't think we've got anybody after Kane. I really, really don't. I think we're really bereft there, like we are at Manchester United. But no, Oliver, I think you should let us know your thoughts. Do you think he should play for England again? Do you think he should have a chance? Do you think he should be in the conversation? Or does he deserve to be banished? I'll just give a couple of reasons. I said I wouldn't go through it, but I always am concerned when the person who's done the accusing is still with the one that they've accused. I think at the time they had no baby on the way. I think since they've had 2, never mind 1. Some would say, well, she's with him for the money, but you may stay with someone for the money for a short while, but in the end you find a way of extricating yourself and getting some of the money and whatever else. And with having kiddies with him, I think she could do all right on that score. I think she could get out with a good few quid there. I think there's more about it than that. And I think from what I read by your colleague's piece, she's got some issues, just as Mason has himself. And then lastly, I have read about Mason's mental capacity and so on and so forth, and some of the things I read really surprised and shocked me. And you can half understand some of the things he said and done and whatever else when you look at mentally how he is. But for all he's got some issues that way, up here, green grass a round ball and the ball at his feet. He's special, really special. And it's just a tragedy we've lost him. It really is, to my mind. So no, I wish Oliver would have said in his piece what he thought, because he's put a nice piece out there, as he always does, and not given his thoughts as a journalist. You know, and I was disappointed. I would have thought that wouldn't have been Oliver. He would have let us know what he thought somewhere along the piece, and it wasn't there. Anyway, he won't like what I've done as much as what he does. He's with the top newspaper, blah, 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 everything. I've just got an armchair, no backing music, no graphics, no nothing. Just an old bloke talking with his glasses probably skew-whiffed. They never look skew-whiffed when I'm looking here. If I see a video later, they're like that, and I think, how do I get them straight? It's the broken nose that's doing me. It's really doing me head in. Really is. Never can do about it now, folks. Broke it, I think, 3 times. I think it was 3. It's never recovered. Right, I'll love you and leave you. That was just my thoughts on something I read a couple of weeks ago. Brilliant, brilliant piece. But I would have liked just a little bit more from Oliver. You normally give us everything we need, Oliver, but I think you should have told us what you thought yourself. Should there be a way back for the young boy, or should it be persona non grata? Is that the right? I think it is. Anyway, I'll love you and leave you on that one.